to Mr. UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV. I am Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC Fight Night 135, Justin Gaethje versus James Vick. We're going to get into the plays that we have in this card, as well as our overall feeling. This main event is going to be exciting. It's one that I think is flying a little bit under the radar with so many fantastic fights coming up for the UFC throughout the rest of this year. Of course, the McGregor and Khabib fight. We've got now the announcement of the Cyborg versus Nunes, and even September 8th, which is a fantastic card, you've got Woodley versus Till. So you've got a lot of moving parts here and a lot of great fights coming up. So this fight here, Bad Blood, it'll be interesting to see how it all transpires in the cage on Saturday night. So we will get into all of that. But before we do not forget to subscribe, like, head kick the bell icon, get involved with Fight Club TV. It's a UFC and gambling channel all in one spot. And we give our best bet plays, which we will get into shortly, which we're right around that 70% mark. So get involved. And after every video, I love having conversations with everybody down below. So as soon as this video is over, we will continue the conversation down below. So get active in the comment section. So we are first going to go over really overall feeling on this card. There's a couple fights on here that I do like, and there's some that I'm not that too big on, and some I may throw a little bit of money on. I'm not really clear cut on, you know, when you overall look at this card, how I feel on it, because there is so many wide-ranged fights in this card. And when you take a look, you know, and I'm seeing a lot of other YouTubers, they're breaking down, you know, Tim Williams versus Eric Anders. I mean, there's really not much to say on a fight like that. You've got, you know, I think Eric Anders, this is just a layup for him. I think this is a get-back fight for him. They like him, and they're really pushing him. I mean, you even saw, for those of you that have watched UFC on Fox, they had a little piece on him, and they're really pushing his brand, and I think he can be great. I think they just pushed him a little too far in his last fight. So I think here, this is just an easy fight for him to win. The odds is, you know, minus 975. Tim Williams is plus 675. So to me, not a fight I'm even placing any money on. It's not really worth it to me. There's too much juice on it. You know, Eric Anders is definitely an up-and-comer, but in my opinion, I mean, to place that's got to be such a wide range for me, but should be a layup for him to get that victory. The other fight is, where is it? Jake Ellenberger versus Brian Barberena. And this here, you know, Jake Ellenberger, it's in his hometown. This is going to be a fight. I feel like this is a farewell fight. I think this is going to be one that he's probably going to win or lose, retire. So, I mean, we saw in his last fight, I mean, his chin is basically gone, and there's not much left of the, you know, the juggernaut that we used to see where, you know, he's doing damage to Diego Sanchez and all these other things that he's done. He's had a great career, and he's had definitely had a lot of highs and some terrific knockouts in his career. So this fight here, you've got Ellenberger at plus 374, and Brian Barberena is a minus 474. So, I mean, you know, to me here again, you know, it's just there's not enough there for me to really lay money on. I'm not willing to place 5 units to get 1 unit back on Brian Barberena. It just doesn't even make sense. And to me, that's not even handicapping. You know, to me, that's not handicapping when you're sitting here and you're, you know, comfortably picking guys that should actually go out there and completely obliterate the opponent. So to me, again, not worth betting on, not worth getting into. So we will not talk about that one. But obviously I believe that Brian Barberena should get that victory. But again, you never know. Ellenberger may have a little bit more gas in that tank at his home to maybe try to get that victory. So for me, it's a stay away fight. It doesn't really make sense to me to place money on it. But a fight that I do like, and I'm not going to dive into it because I have a lot more to talk about, but is one thing that I do like is the Courtney Casey versus Angela Hill. And Courtney Casey is a plus 128, and you've got Angela Hill at a minus 148. I think that's actually some fantastic odds on Courtney Casey. I think she's going to use her reach advantage, her height advantage. She's going to get the takedowns. I see Hill a little bit more sloppy. You know, there's points that you see her sometimes and you say, wow, she looks pretty good. And sometimes you're like, wow, she looks terrible. So I'm not that big on Hill. For me, I'm going to look to put maybe a half a unit on Courtney Casey here just to, you know, kind of have some action on it. I think that there is an opportunity for her to get this victory in nice plus odds here. And I think there's an opportunity for her to take this victory. So I'll probably put a half a unit on Courtney Casey. And the other thing I really want to talk about before we get into our best bet play is this new thing that the UFC is doing now, and they're doing these official stand-ins. And, you've got it now that's going to be happening with Woodley versus Till. They have Usman as an actual official fill-in. And I wanted to get your guys' opinions on that and what you guys' thoughts on this whole thing that the UFC is now looking at and saying, hey, guy doesn't make weight, we need another guy in there that legitimately has earned it, and have him go in there and keep at least the card active, keep the fight active, and whether it's a title fight or a non-title fight, at least if it's a main event, it makes sense to do. So a lot of them, I'm hearing a lot of other media outlets talking about this, and it definitely is something I feel is a great part of the sport now. I think that that's something that they need, and the other part of it is when you miss weight, what happens to you? So that now, again, I've heard, I think it was MMA Junkie that was talking about this, and they're talking about now, why don't you have a 1-point deduction? Right out the gate, you miss weight, right? In that first round, you have, one or over on your overall score. Maybe it's something like that, where your overall score, you lose a point. And I think that is something that changes the dynamic of the fight, and I think it is a fantastic idea to do something like that. I think because if a guy misses weight, and now he knows I'm down a point, which is basically a round, and you still have 3 rounds to go, but you're down basically a round. So even if you go in that first round and you win it, you feel like you've won it, it's basically now it's an even fight because you're going to lose a point. So I think it's a great, I like where it's headed. I like where the conversation is headed because the weight issue has been really taking over the UFC community and just the UFC as a whole, and kind of putting a black eye on some of these guys and women that have had victories, and then they go forward and they actually were way over, and they go forward and they get the victory. So it just puts a lot of very, very an asterisk next to some of these victories, where here you say, listen, you miss, you lose a point, and nobody in a 3-round fight or even a title fight want to lose 1 full point. So let me know your guys' opinions on that down below. We will continue the conversation down there. So we will now get into our best bet play. Our best bet play for the year is 21 wins, 10 losses, plus 16.98 units for the year. So I said we're just a little tad below the 70% winning percentage now. We want to keep going forward and try to get this victory. So what we're going to be talking about is the co-main event of the evening will be the best bet play between Michael Johnson and Andre Fili. Here you've got both of these guys here. You've got Michael Johnson is 18-12. You've got Andre Fili, who is 17-5. And right now it's a pick'em. It was actually, a little bit more tailing, slightly more towards Michael Johnson. And now it has started to change, and looks like money is coming in on Fili, but again, the range of this has been very close, really, since the line has been out. So it's been relatively close. So we will go down again their last 3 fights. We're not going to dive into all the statistics. We're going to really be diving into what we see and how stylistically these two match up, and what the other opponent can expose. And going into the fight, what we believe the outcome will be. So here we go now. I'm going down the line on the last 3 fights for Michael Johnson. Now, Michael Johnson faced, in his last fight, he faced Darren Elkins. Now, Darren Elkins, for all of you that do know him, he is like a walking zombie when he's out there. He takes punches, he takes hits, he takes bullets to the face, and he keeps moving forward. It's just been what he's done, and he's really pieced together some great wins and moved up the rankings on some tough fights, some big names, and gone out there and got the victory. So in this fight here was no different. In the first round here, Michael Johnson dropped huge bombs on Elkins. I mean, Elkins was staggered. He was stunned twice, heavily stunned. I mean, honestly, I believe anybody else took those shots, they're going down. I mean, absolutely, that person was going to get knocked out. And of course, Elkin can take a shot, so Elkin was able to move forward in that. That first round was completely all Michael Johnson. I think his combinations are great. I think the way that he moves around the cage is great. He really works together, nice combinations, and works in a nice low kick, or leg kick, I'm sorry. So he's able to really piece together nice combinations from the outside when he gets a little bit of that space. And that's something to think about going into this fight against Fili. Now, in that second round, Michael Johnson, he had a great first round, and I think he got a little too cocky or just a little lackadaisical, maybe is more the better of the word, and went in there, and right away in that first round, he threw a lazy leg kick, and Elkin had been trying in that first round the entire time to try to take down Michael Johnson. He could not do it. Michael Johnson has really great takedown defense. He actually does. But in this, he threw a lazy leg kick. Elkins takes him down, and from there, not much more to talk about because Elkin just smothered Michael Johnson on the ground, able to pepper him with shots, get some ground and pound, and able to get his back, got the rear naked choke in the second round, and Michael Johnson was choked out in that fight, so Elkin gets that victory. The one before that was against Justin Gaethje, and this was an absolute war. I mean, these guys. There's no difference when any fight that Gaethje has fought in the UFC, and that's another reason why we're excited about the main event. Is that he goes out there and they just went to war. And in this first fight, in the first round, they went out there and both guys were rocked. I mean, Michael Johnson went out there, rocked Gaethje. Gaethje came back middle of that round and ended up rocking Michael Johnson, and they kind of went teeter-totter and went back and forth. And at the end of that first round, Michael Johnson lands a huge shot, which put Gaethje basically up against the cage. He was stunned again, and Michael Johnson was just unloading big shots, and the round ends where there were 17 seconds left. The round ends. So Michael Johnson did not. I think he could have possibly put Gaethje away, which really changes the tone of where he is now. A couple fights ago, Michael Johnson, brutally knocked out Dustin Poirier. So, I mean, he was trying to gain some momentum here as not just a gatekeeper, but a guy that, has knockout power, but can actually beat some of those top guys. So in this fight here, going into the second round, the same thing happens. Michael Johnson rocks Gaethje again, and here I think it was terrible cardio management, energy management, because Michael Johnson both times went out there and he didn't pick his shots. He really just focused forward and said, I'm putting him away, because both of these guys were talking about finishing the fight. And in that fight, in that second round, Michael Johnson had an opportunity to put him away, I believe, but he just gassed himself, and someone who you can't gas against is Justin Gaethje, because Gaethje is able to just keep moving forward. He's got the gas tank. He's able to just absorb so many punches and move forward, and again, he was able to do exactly that in this fight, and the way he was able to do it was pressuring Michael Johnson up against the cage. Gaethje ends up continuing to move forward, and at that point, you just saw, Johnson had nothing. Johnson really had nothing, and the more Gaethje poured it on, Johnson fell to the ground, and they just called the fight as a TKO victory, and Gaethje gets that win. I mean, right there, you've got to take a look at something here, and you got to say, take a look at those two guys that Michael Johnson fought. I mean, he fought two guys with steel chins, and he put on a nice first round, but he started to slip in the second round, and there's maybe something to be said about that, but again, he's fighting some very, very tough guys, extraordinarily tough guys, and off the heels of that comment, he fought Khabib Nurmagomedov 3 fights ago, and we all know what happened there, and we all know where Khabib is now. But in that fight, that first round, he did the same thing that we've seen him do in the first rounds of other fights. Michael Johnson went out there, actually hit Khabib with some nice shots. I wouldn't say he stunned Khabib, because I know a lot of people are using that as a stepping stone to, maybe Conor could do that to Khabib, or that kind of thing, which is a whole nother conversation. But, Khabib, he clipped Khabib a couple times in there, and all that, Khabib had to do, and everyone knows his takedown game, and everybody knows his ground and pound. For the next 3 rounds after that, those few highlights that Johnson had in that first half of that first round, after that, it was 3 straight rounds of all Khabib working him on the ground, taking him down, ground and pound, mauling him, and ended up finishing Michael Johnson in that 3rd round to get the victory. But if you take a look at, again, who Michael Johnson has fought, I mean, he has fought some of the best guys in the division, and you can't really, hate on that because of the fact that, again, he's 18-12, but yet he's facing those elite guys constantly. So we'll get more into Michael Johnson, but after we talk a little bit more on Andre Fili. So Andre Fili is Like I said, it's a pick'em, and he's 17-5. So going back 3 fights for him. Now you got his last fight that he had was against Dennis Bermudez. And Dennis Bermudez is shorter, stockier kind of guy. You know, he more loads up on his punches. He's not really a quick combination kind of guy. Good wrestler. And in this fight here, I would say in that, that first round, they both kind of landed. They were both landing some nice shots. I think that they both had some highlights in there. Fili was able to get a couple takedowns, in those first and second rounds. But the big shots were really coming from Bermudez. And first round was very close. Second round, Bermudez landed a lot. He was able to really pressure him. He was able to really keep pushing forward. And the only thing that Fili really had on Bermudez was the takedowns. And even on those takedowns, it was very quick. Bermudez was not laying on the ground for very long. If he was taken down, he was taken down, and he bounced back up pretty quickly. And there really wasn't much damage that Fili did on the ground. And then in the stand-up game, it was really all Bermudez. And for a guy that's shorter, who, again, loads up and doesn't really sit there and work combinations, he's kind of a 1-2 and done or a 1 and done kind of guy, the way that Bermudez was fighting in this fight. It was very close. And in my opinion, going into that third round, it was a 1-1. I mean, I think it was a pretty much 1-1. You could probably give Fili the first. You could probably give Bermudez the second. And in that third, it was all Bermudez. I mean, in my opinion, it was all Bermudez. He was landing big shots. There was a complete lack of offense coming from Fili into that third round. And in my opinion, although, like I said, I've rewatched these and I knew the outcome, but rewatching them, I like to rescore the fights and see what I see. And I really thought that it was an easy win for Bermudez going into that decision. And Fili does get the victory. It was a split decision victory for Fili. So again, if he loses that fight, it does again change the tone of where we are right now. But Fili does get that victory. Fight before that was against Artur Lobov. And this fight here, I mean, you've got, Lobov is not Mr., technique by any means, and he's not, a guy that's got this polished striking skill. And first round, you saw Lobov really pressuring Fili and putting a lot of pressure on, swinging hard, putting a lot of pressure on, and Fili was able to kind of move around a little bit. It was very close in that first round up until the end of that first round. Fili lands a beautiful head kick, drops Lobov, and at that point, from that round on, it was pretty much all Fili. I mean, Fili was able to work the takedowns into that second round. He was really able to keep getting those takedowns, working the ground and pound, and the thing that Lobov does is he has zero head movement. He keeps his head in the center line. He doesn't really cut off the cage where, Fili's bouncing around and he's following him just, literally like follow the leader. I mean, he's not really trying to work an angle or trying to, and it's kind of weird coming from a Conor McGregor camp who has such, fantastic, cage movement and cage awareness. For a guy like him, I mean, literally he seems more like a punching bag. So second round, he took a lot of damage. Third round was all Fili. Fili got him to the ground, and it looked like Lobov didn't even know how to get up. And I wouldn't say, Fili comes from, Team Alpha Male, so he definitely has, there's wrestling background from him. He definitely has that. But, I mean, I wouldn't say that he's a guy that's going to be able to just manipulate your body on the ground. Lobov, he was able to. He does get that victory, so again, Fili gets that victory there against Lobov. And then against Kattar, that was 3 fights ago. This fight here is one that's very interesting because Kattar was coming off. He had had multiple injuries. He hadn't been fighting. He was actually, they had said that he was going golfing 2 weeks before the fight, and then he came back and ended up taking this fight. So it was very, very weird that all happens. But you take a look at this fight. And the way Kattar fights is Kattar's aggressive. He definitely has some takedowns. He's able to do that. He's a pretty well-rounded guy, and he has nice combinations. And I think he has more slicker combinations than Lobov or Bermudez does. And when you take a look at the way this fight panned out and how it panned out, I think that there's a lot to be said here. So when you take a look at it, the first round, really, close first round. There was a lot happening there. There was a lot going on there. Both guys were really battling it out. Both guys were really, but Kattar was landing some heavy shots. And something that Fili does a lot about is Fili leaves his hands down. He leaves his hands down a lot, even when he's kind of outside, and he takes a lot of time off too, where he'll give space. And Kattar liked that. Kattar liked that there was space between them, and he was able to kind of take a little time off, get a rest, and then work a combination. And Fili, I don't really think Fili's striking is that great. I think it's good. It's not great. For a guy like Kattar, who looked like, he looked actually, he looked really good against Fili, and I don't think Kattar's striking is like, out of this world. But in this fight, he looked great. I mean, first round was all him. He was able to get some takedowns there. He was able to keep the pressure on. And again, Fili, keeping his hands down, took a ton of headshots. And that's something that we've really seen throughout the last few fights from Fili, is that he will leave his hands down. He looks to really, and I think it's also true because he's looking for the takedown, so he wants to keep his hands low if he's trying to go and change levels and get low and try to get the takedown. But it's giving opportunities for his opponent to land heavy shots. And in that second round, into that third round, I mean, it was all Kattar. Kattar landed shot after shot. It looked like, again, that really into that, once that second round hits, Fili started to get tired. He didn't have much left. Kattar really picked him apart. It was an easy, sweeping decision victory for Kattar, and that was 3 fights ago for Andre Fili. So now if we take a look and my takeaways here really of what's going on, and the things that I like and the things that I don't like about each fighter, and really when you take a look at it, I think a huge difference between these two fighters is the experience in the cage and the talent level that they fought. Now, getting back to that, I was about to get into it a little bit before, but getting back into that is who Michael Johnson has fought in the cage is pretty unbelievable compared to the guys that Andre Fili has fought. And if you take a look, it's, he fought, this is also 5 years ago, this one, but he fought Tony Ferguson, and he actually beat Tony Ferguson, but he fought Edson Barbosa, Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier, Khabib, Gaethje, and Elkins. And that's a murderer's row of people, and he's taken every fight, and that's the kind of guy that Michael Johnson is. He is not scared to take a fight. He will go out there and take these fights. He's not picking and choosing and trying to build his resume or trying to build his record. He knows he believes in himself to go out there against some of the best in the world, and he has had some highlights against some of these really, really great fighters. And it's not like he's been steamrolled. I mean, a couple of these guys, yes. I mean, you take a look at it. Khabib, that, he had a highlight there too, but he got steamrolled after that. But really, even against Gaethje, that was a very close fight. He landed some great shots. He had great combinations. Same thing with Elkin. He made one mistake, and if not, he really was looking great in that fight. So there was shots in there that he looked really good. I love the fact that he also has his boxing. I think his boxing he is so smooth and so fast. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be able to expose Fili in this fight. And yes, he's been taken down many times, but he's been taken down against some of the best guys in the division, or within these two divisions that he's kind of been bouncing around between. So I really like that. I really think that he's able to utilize his leg kicks, his cage movement, his combinations from the outside. And if Fili likes to give space to his opponents, he likes to I wouldn't say take time off, but he likes to give a little space. And at least at that point, that's something that plays, in my opinion, right into Michael Johnson's wheelhouse. That it gives him space to then work his combinations and move forward, work his combinations and pressure. He does have nice takedown defense. It's tough sometimes to see some of that, but I think that that's going to be something that he can piece together all of that and make this fight definitely go more his way. And if you look at Fili, I mean, really, his biggest guys that he has fought, he fought Rodriguez, which he lost against, which was also a while ago. But really, it's Bermudez and Lobov. It's Artem Lobov. I mean, those are the most name-real guys that he has fought in his division. So I don't really see. The thing to me is that you can make an argument for Fili, and the fact that if he can take Michael Johnson to the ground, can he keep him there? What's going to happen? But to me, if he's going to push forward and he's going to be able to try to go for those takedowns, it's going to force him to have to go toe-to-toe once in a while with Michael Johnson. I think he's going to be able to clip him. I think that Michael Johnson's going to be able to find a spot, going to be able to pepper him, going to be able to, as long as he also, and he talked about this in an interview, and I liked that, and that really made me more comfortable at Michael Johnson, is the fact that he said, I need to manage my energy better. I need to manage my energy better, because he's had so many highlights, and if you go back to his fights, you see he goes out there and he will just look for bombs early. And yes, he lands them, and then he goes in that second round, and maybe he doesn't have it all there, or maybe he's not all there. And in a fight like this, where Michael Johnson needs this victory, I think he's 1-5 in his last 6, but again, against elite level, but still, he needs this victory. This is something that I think he can get the victory from. And again, I believe that Fili lost against Bermudez. So I really like Michael Johnson here. I think that he gets the victory. I think he could also get the finish here. But I'm just comfortable enough where I'm going to place 2 units on Michael Johnson at minus 110, I believe the odds are. Yes, minus 110. I think he's just going to be able to get the job done. So that is going to be the best bet play. Our best bet play, again, is 21 wins, 10 losses, plus 16.98 units for the year. That'll be my best bet play. And then also, I just wanted to quickly go over the main event. The main event here, although I'm seeing odds all over the place, Vick versus Gaethje. You've got, Gaethje is a plus 125. I've actually seen him at a minus 125, and I've seen Vick, the other way. Here, it's a minus 145. I've seen him at a plus 135. So I've really seen it all over the place. Probably arbitrage a little bit of this fight, but looking at it as just a stylistic matchup, it's very hard. This is a very, very tough fight to really place a large amount of money on, in my opinion. I actually think that if Gaethje can land those leg kicks and work those combinations and push him and get that pressure on, it's going to be difficult for Vick. But it's so easier said than done. Vick being 6'3", he comes from a boxing background. I think he uses those front kicks to really just manage distance well. I think that Gaethje knows this is a big fight for him. And the fact that Gaethje has said, if I lose this, he's thought about retirement. So a guy like that, with the mentality like that, it makes me lean more towards Vick. Probably place a little money on Vick, but I will pick Vick to get this victory. I think he does enough where he's on the surging side and Gaethje is actually heading on the other way since he has really stepped up in competition. So I don't really see him getting this victory, so I will go with Vick. I think Vick will get the job done. So there you have it, guys. Those are my plays for the event this Saturday. We will have all of our prediction shows and everything on September 8th. Again, for the Woodley versus Till fight. We will get into all that. So all your comments during the event, have them down here. I will not have a Let's Chat video. I'll probably do it for UFC 228 and manage a little bit more of the comments that way. So any comments during the event, bets that you have coming up, fights that you saw that you like, give me all the comments down below. Don't forget to head kick the bell icon and like this video. That always shows me that who's interested in these comments, who's interested in these videos, and we always want to make sure we get more of them out. And if you have not yet done so, do not forget to subscribe, like, head kick the bell icon, get involved with Fight Club TV. And this is Mr. UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV.